Tonight, just days away from tabling a budget, there's still uncertainty about whether the government will have the votes to pass it.
This is not a game. I'm always prepared to stand up for the right thing.
Mark Carney says he's willing to fight an election over it. What CBC News is learning about the last-minute talks to avert one. Plus a shocking attack on a UK commuter train.
I was kind of asking questions like, what's going on? What's happening? Like, who is it? And they were like, a guy's just stabbing everyone back there.
What we're learning about the incident and the alleged attacker.
The Dodgers have won the World Series.
And heads still held high after a devastating loss.
It was a phenomenal run. I'm so proud of those boys.
Blue Jays fans reflect on the heartbreaking end to a dazzling World Series run.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hennemensing.
After more than a week abroad, Prime Minister Mark Carney is back in Canada tonight, where he now faces a delicate political test. His first budget will be tabled on Tuesday, setting the stage for a crucial confidence vote. Carney's Liberals need opposition support to pass the budget, and right now, it's not clear where that support will come from. Opposition parties are weighing their next moves, leaving the budget and government on shaky ground. Failure to pass the budget could send Canadians back to the polls, and Carney insists he's ready for an election if it comes to that. JP Tasker now with the political calculus playing out in Ottawa.
After a 9-day swing through Asia, Prime Minister Mark Carney is promising what he calls generational investments back home. Tuesday's federal budget, the first in 18 months, is expected to include more money for the military, housing, and workers affected by U.S. tariffs, but also cuts to rein in spending that ballooned under the Trudeau government.
Canada is entering a new era. This is our moment to define our next century. We have the resources to transform our economy from one of reliance to resilience.
This budget presents a politically perilous moment for the minority Liberal government. If the opposition votes it down, Canadians could be headed to the polls. Carney says he's ready if it comes to that.
I am 100% confident that this budget is the right budget for this country at this moment. This is not a game. I'm always prepared to stand up for the right thing.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has made a series of demands in exchange for his party's support. He wants Carney to scrap the industrial carbon tax and produce a much smaller deficit. The Liberals have already dismissed those requests as outlandish.
He wants to double Trudeau's deficits and keep on spending, driving inflation and the cost of living even higher. That is the cost of Carney. No compromise for Mr. Carney whatsoever.
Leaving Poilievre with a decision to make. Do you want an election before Christmas?
We want an affordable budget that will give Canadians affordable life before Christmas. We will not vote to raise grocery prices and increase housing costs.
Meanwhile, the Bloc Québécois has demands of its own, including higher pension payouts and more healthcare spending. Separatist MPs say they are voting no if they don't get what they want.
At the moment, the government didn't seem to be very interested in negotiating.
The NDP, with its small 7-member caucus, hasn't decided what it will do. Dead set against voting for an austerity budget, they could tip the scales in favor of an election.
We want to see policies in this budget that respond to the very real struggles that working people are facing right now.
With 169 seats in the House of Commons, the Liberals need just 3 opposition votes to get the budget through and hold off a second election in less than a year.
And JP, sources are telling you there are options on the table.
Yes, senior NDP and Conservative sources tell me there are ongoing conversations about how to cobble together enough votes to avoid an election. One option being discussed is for some NDP MPs to abstain from the budget vote. That could be a face-saving measure for the party. The government survives, and New Democrats can try and claim they didn't prop up the Liberals again. Ian?
JP Tasker in Ottawa. On Tuesday, our chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton, will host special coverage breaking down the first federal budget from Prime Minister Mark Carney's government. That begins at 3 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get CBC News. A big question mark hovering over that budget: how much damage will Donald Trump's tariffs do to the Canadian economy? The U.S. Treasury Secretary is hinting that Trump's recent threat of even higher tariffs is so far only a threat. But as Mike Crawley shows us, that's not the only thing clouding the future of trade talks.
The U.S. president on his way back to Washington after spending the weekend at his Mar-a-Lago resort. It's now been more than a week since Donald Trump said he was increasing what he called the tariff on Canada by 10%. Yet there's still no official word which tariff he was talking about, nor any formal notice to Ottawa.
Let's talk about Canada for 1 second.
Now Trump's Treasury Secretary is hedging.
When can we expect that 10% tariff to be taken down?
He hasn't put on a 10% tariff. He threatened to put on a 10%.
So he didn't actually do it?
It hasn't been put on yet.
Scott Bessent pivoted to criticizing the Ontario government ad that provoked Trump, first to call off trade talks with Canada, then to announce that tariff hike.
Nobody likes foreign governments trying to sway public opinion for their own good.
So the 10% tariff has not been enacted, and it might not be enacted.
We'll see.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says he apologized to Trump for Ontario's anti-tariff ad and advised the Premier against running it.
The President was offended by the act, or by the ad, rather, and it's not something I would have done.
America's jobs and growth are at stake.
Trump has claimed the ad was an attempt to influence the top court of the U.S.
Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, and they totally changed that to say that he didn't because they're catering to the Supreme Court.
On Wednesday, the court will hear arguments on the legality of much of Trump's tariff regime, including the ones he imposed on Canada over fentanyl trafficking.
The stakes of this case are extremely high.
Elizabeth Wydra leads a nonprofit legal group in Washington. She says the outcome could quickly change how the White House negotiates.
For the Trump administration, tariffs have been a big leveraging chip that they've used in bargaining.
Trump has called this the most important case ever and has said it would be a disaster for the U.S. if he loses.
And Mike, the stakes for him go beyond even the impact on trade negotiations with partners like Canada.
Yeah, if the Supreme Court rules against the administration, the costs to the U.S. Treasury could run well into the hundreds of billions of dollars. It could be forced to return tariffs that importers have paid since the spring and would lose out on the future revenue from the tariffs that Trump claims are making America rich again.
Mike Crawley reporting from Washington. The U.S. Defense Secretary said his forces destroyed another boat in the Caribbean, killing 3 people on board. Posting this video online yesterday, Pete Hegseth said the boat was operated by a U.S.-designated terrorist organization, though he didn't name it. He claimed the boat was transporting narcotics and that what he called narco-terrorists will be treated exactly how we treated al-Qaeda. The Trump administration has admitted to killing more than 60 people in at least 15 boat strikes so far, amid growing questions from U.S. lawmakers about the legality and justification of the strikes. One person is clinging to life tonight in a UK hospital among the 11 injured in a horrifying mass stabbing on a train heading to London. Witnesses describe panic, confusion, and blood on the seats. Police have a suspect, but as Briar Stewart explains, no motive.
The first moments after panicked passengers called police to report a mass stabbing. The train was about an hour into its journey towards London when those on board were startled by screaming.
Guys suddenly run past going, run, run. There's a guy stabbing literally everyone, everything. Everyone was really pushing behind us, really panicking.
I saw someone who was very badly injured, lots of blood around them. They were either collapsed or like looking about, they were about to fall over. And people were trying to pass back hoodies and things to pack the wound.
The conductors diverted the train to nearby Huntingdon Station. Armed police rushed in as passengers fled.
Leaving the train, the conductor managed to open it. The other conductor got stabbed because he was trying to prevent more people getting stabbed.
Amira Stolsky thought she was safe when she was on the platform, and then she thought she saw the attacker running towards her.
I saw him climb the fence, the wooden fence, and start running right towards us. And then we decided to hide in the taxi, and the police came and detained him right in front of my eyes.
She said the suspect, later identified as a 32-year-old British man, was tasered. A taxi driver reported hearing the man plead with police.
He was asking to be killed. When he was surrounded by the police, kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me.
Police originally arrested 2 suspects, but one was later released. They say they aren't treating this as terrorism, but the investigation is continuing, and one of the rail workers remains in hospital with life-threatening injuries. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Hamas militants have handed over what it says are 3 more sets of hostage remains to Israeli authorities. Not including today's handover, Hamas has returned 17 hostage remains so far. Israel says the latest bodies will undergo forensic identification. Remains returned earlier this weekend were later deemed not to match those of any known hostage. Hamas says the widespread destruction in Gaza is complicating recovery efforts. People in Montreal and Edmonton rallied today in support of a proposed ceasefire in Sudan's civil war and called on Canada to do more. Sam Sampson shows us how the murderous violence escalated this week, drawing attention to the African country's plight and the world's response.
The violence is unforgiving and brutal. Video verified by Reuters shows bodies in ditches after mass killings. Another verified video shows a man on the ground, shot mid-conversation. All horrific realities since the city of El Fasher was overrun by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, 1 week ago. Since the civil war started in April 2023, an estimated 150,000 people have been killed. Millions are displaced. El Fasher is in Sudan's Darfur region, an area the size of France. Tens of thousands have fled to the nearby town of Tuwila, facing starvation, sexual assault, and death along the way. But it's believed more are trapped in what was the last Sudanese army stronghold.
We call again for securing a safe passage for people trying to flee, protecting those who remain in El Fasher, and for full and unimpeded humanitarian access.
While other countries are part of active ceasefire talks in Sudan, some say Canada can be a neutral voice for negotiations, humanitarian aid, or even peacekeeping. This expert will share his ideas with Ottawa lawmakers on Monday.
We have to really follow the do no harm policy, but I think in conjunction with this diplomatic effort to have both parties agree to at least, let's say, a temporary ceasefire, which is on the table right now, thanks to the Quad and other negotiations, that's really important.
We demand a free Sudan!
Those with loved ones in El Fasher feel the fear an ocean away, like Agla Sabil, who says she was sent footage of her loved ones dying.
My friends, my cousins, uncles, they in the videos, you know, they shooting them. Yeah.
Do you hope to go back to El Fasher one day?
I hope to, after the war is finished. I hope.
What do you hope to see when you go there?
My home, all the places I went to, all my friends.
Even during a time of relentless violence, so many here dream of seeing a country they love at peace. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
A retired truck driver has been hit with a big bill for a vehicle he sold months ago. Experts say it could happen to almost any private seller in provinces that haven't closed a loophole. Rosa Marcatelli with our Go Public team shows us how a car lover got dinged.
Yeah, you can see we're a little bit into the car culture.
Daryl Nash is a car guy. He's bought and sold plenty of vehicles over the years. The last one was in the spring. An aging Acura with more than 300,000 kilometers and a list of mechanical issues. He sold it for $500 cash.
2 adult people made a deal, shook hands, signed papers, and transferred money. That should be the end of it.
But it wasn't. Months later, Nash says he was blindsided by a towing and storage bill for a vehicle he no longer owned, more than $1,500 by the time he opened it. The SUV had been abandoned on the side of the road and was still registered in Nash's name.
The tow truck company pretty much said that, well, we'll just send it to collections and you'll end up paying it because it'll ruin your credit.
Because the buyer never registered the vehicle, Nash is still legally responsible for it. What he calls a terrifying loophole in the law that leaves sellers on the hook for fines, towing, even criminal liability.
Turns out that loophole is an easy fix if provinces are willing to do it.
A lot of provinces have the same gap, as I understand it. It would be a simple fix just to make it a mandatory transfer at the time of sale.
A simple fix, yet very few provinces have closed the loophole. Those that have require both the buyer and the seller to register the sale with the province, taking the seller's name off the record and avoiding any confusion.
How simple is that? I could totally get behind that. Okay.
But despite how simple it sounds, Nash's home province of BC and others tell Go Public they aren't planning any changes.
I know it looks terrible, but it runs.
Nash says he's refusing to pay a bill for a car he no longer owns for a buyer he can't find anymore. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
Our Go Public stories come from you, so if you have a tip for the team to investigate, send an email to gopublic@cbc.ca. Did you watch the Jays game last night to the heartbreaking end? Players and fans are still reeling from that extra innings Game 7 loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers. But as Lisa Shing shows us, despite the crushing end to the series, fans are still finding plenty of reasons to smile.
The Dodgers have won the World Series.
An agonizing 11th inning loss to end a nail-biting Game 7, leaving fans and players heartbroken.
I just could not wait to come to the field every day. I just love these guys so much. That's all I care about.
I think this group taught me what a team is. I think it's probably the most valuable lesson of my career.
That love for the game and each other brought the World Series back to Canada for the first time in 32 years. Thanks to George Springer's 3-run home run to win Game 7 of the American League Championship Series.
I feel like we've been playing with house money.
While devastated, this superfan is grateful the games brought her family together.
To have my family around me, to have my parents, to have my brother's kids, was a real salve.
The underdogs brought a nation together, people from coast to coast cheering them on.
I think they gave it their all, regardless of what ifs, this and that. They made a whole city and a whole country proud.
It was a phenomenal run, and I'm so proud of those boys.
There was a lot to be proud of. Addison Barger's pinch hit grand slam. Rookie pitcher Trey Savage's 12 strikeouts, and this first pitch home run to lead off Game 5. So many records, so many moments.
Man, that was a fight, for 7 games. That's a really good Toronto Blue Jays team.
One that some say can only get better.
The foundation is there. The culture is certainly there now that this is a winning team, that they've been to the World Series, and they're going to be hungry.
For a team that played their heart out and got so close, fans hoping this is just the beginning. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
A booming wellness trend promises to recharge your body, but some doctors are warning against it.
There is so little regulatory oversight.
We look at the rise of IV drip bars and the risks they carry. A soldier's duffel bag lost in wartime Italy resurfaces after 80 years.
The feeling, I guess, in one word would be heavy.
How a historian reconnected the item with the soldier's Canadian family. And I sit down with Heather Hiscox ahead of her CBC farewell.
I know I'll miss so many aspects of it. I'm certain of that, particularly the viewers.
We're back in 2.
Victoria Mboko, sensational season, is sealed in style.
Canadian Victoria Mboko clinching the Hong Kong Open today, her second pro title of this season. The 19-year-old from Burlington, Ontario, defeated Spain's Cristina Buxa. In August, Mboko won the National Bank Open in Montreal, but she suffered a wrist injury that slowed her momentum. She's expected to move into the World Tennis Association's top 20 when new rankings are released Monday. To boost energy or beat a hangover, some Canadians are hooking up to IV therapy. The vitamin cocktails are a booming business for wellness clinics, but as Lauren Pelly shows us, researchers warn there's little regulation and potentially big health risks.
So
social media is filled with ads for intravenous therapy, cocktails of vitamins and supplements that cost hundreds of dollars and get injected right into someone's veins.
The growth that you're seeing probably is in part because there is so little regulatory oversight.
This researcher studied the booming business of IV therapy south of the border. He found less than a third of clinics required consultation with a licensed medical professional before treatment or described the potential health risks.
If consumers are going to go off and use these, particularly often without their doctors even knowing that they're using these, we have to make sure that the safeguards are in place that nobody gets hurt.
The risks can include potential cross-contamination, adverse reactions, or even serious infections.
Good morning. Good morning.
At this wellness center in Mississauga, team members told us they adhere to strict safety standards for their IV offerings, including a sterile environment, patient exams, and vital checks. But this naturopath says one customer told her she passed out during a session at a different facility after being given a partially frozen IV bag.
This really concerns us as providers of this treatment because it can be very dangerous for the patient.
Across Canada, CBC News found private IV clinics often fall into a regulatory gray zone, similar to the U.S. Health Canada authorizes intravenous health products, while a patchwork of provincial watchdogs monitor workers, such as naturopaths, physicians, or registered nurses. Only some regulators actually inspect the clinics directly.
Unfortunately, I think these IV clinics, they're falling through the cracks.
One of Canada's top experts on health and wellness trends says the bigger issue is there's often no evidence backing up claims about health benefits.
I think that these products should be viewed as a major red flag.
Doctors told us if you're sick, seek medical advice. And if you're healthy, there's typically no need for any type of intravenous therapy. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
After 43 years on the air, Heather Hiscox is saying goodbye.
Here's what's making news.
Are you going to miss it?
I am.
I sit down with the Morning Live anchor ahead of her final sign-off. 80 years ago, a Canadian soldier left his bag behind in Italy. Now it's telling the story of the battles he endured.
We have Sicily, Italy, continental.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
34 first responders from the U.S. are helping Jamaica cope with the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. The Category 5 storm devastated parts of the island and left more than 60 people dead in Jamaica, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. The U.S. crew is assessing the damage, delivering supplies, and speaking to residents. At least 26 people are dead and dozens more are missing after a landslide in western Kenya triggered by heavy rains. More than 1,000 homes were destroyed and roads have been cut off, complicating search efforts. Hundreds have died in recent years as floods and landslides grow more common in the region, with scientists pointing to climate change. More than 80 years after Cape Breton soldier Hector MacDonald was killed fighting Nazi forces in Italy, his family has returned to the scene of his final battle. They were drawn there by an accidental discovery, a dusty, discarded duffel bag. Megan Williams explains.
North Nova Scotia Islanders.
Local historian Michele Facchini reads the name of the Second World War regiment Hector Colin MacDonald penned on his duffel bag 8 decades ago. Along with the battles, the coal miner from Cape Breton survived.
We have Sicily, Italy, continental. And then we have Ortona, very, very important battle, Cassino.
The most brutal offenses of the Italian campaign. Facchini was searching fields for battle remnants when this farmer showed him a dusty bag.
Hector Colin MacDonald left his duffel bag here in December 1944 as he moved on with his regiment to try to push the Germans over the Limone River.
Where in mid-December, MacDonald, just shy of 29, was killed on this bridge when he stepped on a German mine. One of some 550 Canadians who perished in the campaign through freezing, mud-choked terrain to liberate the Ravenna area near the Adriatic coast in central Italy. Memories of that time are still alive. A school turned hospital, frescoes to lift spirits in the former canteen, Christmas held in the town market basement.
The feeling, I guess, in one word would be heavy. It feels driving this whole route and following the route that everyone took, and that I know he walked for sure, and that his belonging was found in this very yard.
Stacey Jordan from Kingston, Ontario, is MacDonald's great-great niece, here to honor Hector, or Hecky as he was called. Another local researcher spent weeks tracking down Jordan's mother, who messaged back immediately.
All it said was, he was my great uncle.
With Hector MacDonald's wartime duffel bag now in the hands of Jordan, it will be heading back home to a family that never forgot his sacrifice. Megan Williams, CBC News, Russi, Italy.
Time now to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. An aerial assault on the security of Canada's prisons. Criminals going high-tech to sneak contraband into the hands of inmates.
This is just a tiny snippet of what we've seized.
How police are targeting dangerous drone drops. But first.
I'm Heather Hiscox. Here's what's making news right now.
For almost 20 years, Canadians have been waking up to Heather Hiscox, host of CBC Morning Live. But this week comes her final sign-off.
I know I'll miss so many aspects of it. I'm certain of that.
With her final show just days away, Heather looked back at some of her favorite moments before stepping out of the spotlight. For the last 2 decades, in the early morning, while most of us were still soundly asleep, Heather's headed to work. Up this elevator, through an almost empty newsroom.
Glad he came first and said one more, and then like everybody had a
Past
little...
the camera?
Yeah. Back somewhere in the show.
Oh, were you his dad watching the home run, like Davis now?
Yeah.
Linda, we may be live out on location tomorrow.
A job she still, after all these years, adores.
3 minutes. Have a fun show, everybody.
Are you going to miss it?
I am, and you know, it is truly. We are the tip of the spear, aren't we? People know who we are, but these are the people who put together a newscast, and they work incredibly hard to do that for us and with us. Good morning. It's Monday, September 15th. I'm Heather Hiscox. Here's what's making news right now.
Watching you on television, there are a few things that come to mind. Your excellence, for sure,
Thank
but
you.
also you seem to love your job. Do you still love your job?
More than I did on the very first day when I was 17, which is incredible to imagine, 43 years ago. Absolutely. I love every day. I feel like I'm starting every day, the career all over again. Every interview is fresh. Every guest is interesting. There are things that happen, that might make a show go awry, and you might love it a little less in the moment, but every day I love coming to work.
But if you love it so much and you're still clearly so good at it, why are you leaving?
I've been thinking about this for some time, but there's always something in our business, isn't there, to keep us engaged and interested? There's always another Olympics, there's always some other royal event or some interesting political event or thing that you want to cover, that you want to be part of, and that has kept me going. But at a certain point, when I turned 60 last year, it sharpens the focus a little bit. You realize there's a lot less time behind than there is in the future. So if you have any aspirations of doing anything else, this is the time to do it. And so even though the prospect of walking out of this building and this newsroom for the last time is daunting, and it's kind of emotional sometimes to think about, it's the right time.
Also, when I think about you, I think about how horribly early you wake up every day for work. You posted a picture on Instagram with a series of alarms on it. Is that how you wake up? Like all those alarms have to go off?
And more. Those were just the only ones that fit in the picture.
So tell me the morning wake up strategy.
2:30, the radio goes off, and that gives me local radio news. So I wake up to the local radio station. I listen at 2:30 in the morning. As my Instagram says and my ex says, happily waking up Generally, I am happily waking up, but the radio goes off and I listen to whatever the headlines are for the first 9 minutes and then spring into action. And one of my proudest accomplishments is I've never slept in. Never once, touch wood, because I have a few more shifts to go, never once in 20 years of doing this job. And I think it's because I have 3, 4, 5 alarms going every single day.
Let's go way back for a moment. 17 years old. Your first job in your local radio station at Owen Sound. I'm going to ask you your impressions of that. But first, I want to play you a piece of tape. And we just want to get a sense of what the 17-year-old Heather Hiscox was like.
She certainly stood out at that point, no question. To me, you know, she was mature beyond her years. She was so articulate. Very engaging and sincere. Just very, very, very impressed.
My first and still likely my very best boss, Rick Moss, who hired me. It's a very strange origin story for 2025, but if you think back to 1981, when I was 16, I was Miss Teen Canada. So at the end of my year as Miss Teen Canada, they said, would you ever be interested in learning how to be a radio announcer? And I thought it would be a fantastic summer job. So at a small town radio station on weekends, you do it all. And after third year university, I was here in Toronto studying French, language, literature, and translation with a view to law school. I thought, what am I thinking about law school for? Because this is what I love. And I'd like to study this further. So I went to Western and did my master's in journalism, and my career developed from there.
And after that, like, what a broadcast career you had before you walked into this building. Anything about that stage in your career that kind of stands out?
I started at Global in Toronto when I started seriously into journalism, and then Halifax, Montreal, which I'd probably still be, it would still be my city in which I was living and working had I not married a man from Ontario. But then that was Hamilton. It was part of the same company at the time. And then eventually to CBC, first as a correspondent and then the morning show. But all along, different broadcasters, different companies, and different cities, so valuable in exposing me not just as a visitor, but someone who lived in many parts of the country.
Here, we're right outside the NO headquarters on St. Catherine Street in Montreal.
The other aspect is my jobs changed in all of those positions. So sometimes I was a reporter, sometimes I was on radio, sometimes it was more entertainment oriented, sometimes it was current affairs, sometimes it was, you know, more traditional anchoring. And then I've been able to pull all of those jobs and roles together for the morning show, which really to me is a job that's tailor-made to me and my interests and experience.
20 years on the morning show. And one of the most amazing moments in a series of amazing moments was after the earthquake in Turkey and a live rescue on your show.
The number of dead now in Turkey and Syria passes 21,000. A major earthquake in Turkey and in Syria. Tens of thousands of people were killed, and the devastation was enormous. And Briar Stewart was sent to cover it for us at CBC News. Oh, let's listen.
This is the moment, Heather.
They pulled out a woman who had been under the rubble for 5 days, and she was alive. And there was Briar as they put her on a stretcher and put an oxygen mask on her and then took her away.
How does it feel to bring her out?
I am happy.
You know, it was just this wonderful moment, and we were there from the very start. It was terrific television.
Interviews, I mean, you've done thousands of them. One of your favorite interviews is with 2 young guys talking about space.
Back in 2020, we had these 2 little boys who were 11 at the time, Alfie Chan, and Theron Da Silva. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thanks for being guests on our show together. And they were great friends from school, and they were space nuts. We used to call them the space whiz kids, but they loved things having to do with space.
But I did see Saturn's rings, and I did see Jupiter's 4 moons.
Whoa. How often do you 2 guys talk about space?
A lot. A lot.
It was just infectious. People responded so well to them. So we have had them on the show, I think 8 or 9 times since, as they've gotten older. And one of them in particular, his voice has dropped over the years. It's really been fun to see.
You've done the morning show from various places around the world, including from, what, 10 Olympics?
10 Olympics,
10
yes.
Olympics.
Heather Hiscox, CBC News, Athens. Heather Hiscox, CBC News, Sochi. Heather Hiscox, CBC News, Paris.
What was the highlight for you?
They're all memorable to me. But 2010 and Vancouver, our home Olympics, interesting, we didn't have the rights at that time. CTV did, of course. And we weren't working on the final day. I could go to the men's hockey games. So I was among the, I think it was 18,000 people on their feet and everything flying and everybody hugging. Everyone joyous, everyone so proud. That's a moment of the Olympics not working that I will certainly carry.
You have a lot of wisdom. You also strike me as somebody who is optimistic. A message here maybe for the consumers of news who may be feeling like, what do you watch now without getting depressed? What message do you have for them?
Watching the news, and I think, COVID certainly exacerbated this, it induces anxiety and fear. And so people are increasingly, we know this, they're just disengaging and they're turning it off. I say, please don't do that. It's just never has there been maybe a more important time to be aware of what's happening in your community, in your province, in your country, and globally. But it's a matter of tempering that. I think it's incumbent on those in the news business to make sure we give the viewers a moment of lightness, a moment of levity, a moment of personality, or of, a smile or a laugh.
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go, Raptors!
Have you pictured it all, that last walk out these doors?
I know I'll miss so many aspects of it. I'm certain of that, particularly the viewers and particularly that connection. But I'm proud of these years. I really am. And I'm joyous at what we've accomplished. I'm excited about the future. And that's what I'm going to focus on when I leave.
Well, 20 years of excellence, of creativity is an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and we'll be sorry to see you go.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate it.
You can watch Morning Live celebrating Heather Hiscox this Thursday, starting at 6 a.m. Eastern on CBC News Network or the CBC News YouTube channel. And if you're in Toronto, you can see her final show live in person. Go to cbc.ca/celebratingheather to get a free ticket. Coming up, it's a modern-day crime from above, contraband smuggled into prisons by drones.
Once you enter into the selling and buying inside the prison, that's when violence comes in. It makes it very dangerous for staff, very dangerous for inmates.
How police are targeting these prohibited packages pilots. Next. A modern-day challenge for Canada's prison staff. Drones smuggling in dangerous contraband.
Tobacco, cannabis, knives as well. They're flying hard drugs in, fentanyl, crystal meth.
Now, police and correctional staff in one Ontario city are fighting back.
We've caught a lot of people flying drones from this parking lot.
Dan Takema brings us this exclusive look inside a first-of-its-kind task force targeting dangerous drone drops behind prison walls.
If weapons are coming in, phones are coming in, it's like a bomb in many ways.
The money that they're making inside the prisons and pumping it back out into the street causes a lot of danger on the street. What we're starting to see are rival gangs are trying to control who can fly into prisons. This stuff is worth a lot of money in the institution. And these drones can fly 2 kilometers away.
We're standing behind a grocery store here in Kingston, and that might not seem like a usual crime scene, but police have spent a lot of time here, and that's because of what's over there.
This was the original launch location. We've caught a lot of people flying drones from this parking lot.
About a kilometer away is the Collins Bay Institution, home to more than 700 inmates, which makes it a tempting target for smugglers.
Tobacco, cannabis, knives as well. They're flying hard drugs in, fentanyl, crystal meth. So we formed a team to start combating the drugs and weapons going into the prison.
Sergeant Jonas Bonham is head of the Kingston Police Intelligence Unit. He says they had to learn on the fly.
So the first interception is funny because I was in the drug unit, sort of unaware of how this stuff went. We arrested them mid-launch, so then we had to figure out how to land the drone with the package attached to it. That hasn't happened since. That was in 2020, but that was definitely a good example.
Here's what they figured out. Pilots want a place to blend in, hide their vehicle, and access a quick getaway. That's what made this spot so popular.
Collins Bay Institution, as we know, is sort of situated right in the middle of the city. A lot of the other institutions are out in the country where there's kind of one road in and one road out. It's easier to catch the pilots there.
Drone smuggling has become big business. The Correctional Service says nearly 900 incidents were reported across Canada in 2023. Last year, that jumped to over 1,000. Locally, law enforcement decided to do something about it.
Kingston is a prison town, so it just made sense for us to join forces.
It's the first task force of its kind in Canada. They estimate it's cut the number of drone drops in Kingston by more than half.
Certainly this task force is making a huge difference.
This is just a tiny snippet of what we've seized.
Everything from drugs and cell phones the size of your thumb to weapons.
And it's not like sharpening a toothbrush. Like, this is a pretty serious weapon, and you could easily kill someone with it.
There's even a basketball stuffed with tobacco and phones, evidence of how hard smugglers are trying to hide their goods.
We've seen them with like fake grass on them. We've seen them white in the wintertime so they can drop them in the snow. They're trying to camouflage them. This is all done via cell phone, and then the payload gets delivered. I mean, they hope it gets delivered. We hope we intercept it.
This video, found on a drone Kingston police recovered, shows how it works. A bundle swings from a drone as it flies over an institution. An inmate starts to slowly walk out. The package drops and is quickly scooped up, then brought inside.
There have been deliveries in the past to windows and open areas within the institutional confines have been targeted for payload deliveries.
It does sound synonymous with Uber or something along those lines.
This former inmate spent 2 decades behind bars and now helps first-timers prepare for life inside. He says drones represent a real danger.
You think about the volume of things that could be brought in. That's a scary thought.
Some of this is tobacco and pot, legal on the street, but worth 10 to 25 times as much on the inside.
That money is getting returned to the community and going right back into organized crime.
Police have recognized that risk and responded by changing how they charge smugglers.
We've upgraded our charges to a mischief endangering life. Once you enter into the selling and buying inside the prison, that's when violence comes in. It makes it very dangerous for staff, very dangerous for inmates.
After nearly a year spent catching drones here in Kingston, police are hoping the lessons they've learned get picked up by other police forces across the country.
Correctional Service Canada says civilians can play a part in keeping communities safe. They're asking anyone who lives or works near federal prisons to report drones flying in the area or any suspicious vehicles or activity nearby. Next, Jays fans reflect on a tough loss that caps an unforgettable playoff run.
We're here together as a family for our city, and that's what I love, and I'm really happy we made it this far.
Celebrating a hard-fought season in our moment. You're looking at a snapshot of Toronto last night after the Blue Jays' gut-wrenching final loss, capping off a World Series matchup that went down to the wire. Despite the deep disappointment, many loyal fans continue to praise their Jays, and tonight that devotion is our moment.
It feels like a dream. We were here together as a family for our city, and that's what I love, and I'm really happy we made it this far.
Hits it high in the air to deep center.
It's great that we made it to a Game 7, especially against the Dodgers. We gave them a good fight.
Line drive right center. Clemente in.
I mean, you're looking at extra innings in the World Series in Game 7. And, you know, it's tough to ask for more, and we just couldn't get that a little bit more. But it's great. It was a great season overall, and looking forward to seeing them back again in April.
I've never heard things so loud. Everybody was so excited.
It was a good season. You know, we made it all the way through.
We will be there next year, and I sure hope so, because I'm going to be wearing the same thing.
So those reactions were just shortly after the game ended last night. We heard more of that on Cross Country Checkup this afternoon. There is something special about these 2025 Jays. They really did touch fans right across the country. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. I hope you can join me weekdays on News Network, live at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Good night.